Thank you. Yeah, Tom, you should change your name tag to the great Tom Beers, I think. I'd also like to thank and recognize our partners, our sponsors and our partners one more time. Intuit, Fidelity,
all right,
Peterson Foundation, EY, Parthenon, KPMG, the McKinsey Global Institute, Morgan Stanley, the Economist Intelligence Unit, Wells Fargo, MetLife Investment Management, Haver Analytics,
all right,
Woods and Pool, Bloomberg, and S&P Global. Thank you very much for that, for the very generous support.
a lot happening right now today. I'm gonna have Trump later on.
It's now my pleasure to announce the 2025 NABE Lynn Reeser Economic Forecasting Award.
Thank you.
Which recognizes the most accurate forecaster over the past 12 months, which is really a feat over the last 12 months. I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
Welcome, everybody. How's it going? Welcome.
First place goes to the Wells Fargo team, Jay Bryson's team. Jay recently retired and no one is here to accept the award, but please join me in congratulating him. Oh, they are here. Okay, that's right.
What?
Yeah, come on up. Oh,
come on, Papa Powell, pump us. Pump us. Can he? Can he?
Thank you.
After this, we have Trump speaking.
Yeah, congrats. Congrats. And the second place goes to Richard Wubkind of the University of Colorado Boulder. After the year we've had, special kudos to both winners. Great job. So now I'd like to turn it over to our president, Emily Kolinsky-Morris, to present a few more awards, none of which I won. So, amen.
Binance launches 400 million
we'll get
support
you next,
plan.
Geraldine, because I am here to take a moment before we move on to our lunch, the rest of our lunch program. I am going to take a moment to recognize 4 outstanding members of the NABE board whose terms are ending this year. So we have Wilco Schultz-Mellendorf. And then here in the room, if I could ask you 3 to come up, we have Kathleen Navin, Yale Selfin, and our past president, Julia Coronado.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Still good morning here. We're listening to this, it's like a luncheon, and Papa Powell, Jerome Powell is going to be speaking soon, in like 10 minutes. Right now, the prices are, as explained, somewhat choppy. Later today, we have Trump welcoming Argentina, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of things happening there. And later today, I won't be live for that. Probably I won't be live for that. But, what is this? But, there's, what is it called? Oh, I'm blanking. There you go. Honor and Charlie with the Medal of Freedom. There you go. So, stuff happening today. Welcome.
Has strengthened nearly every initiative that she's touched. Then next we have Yale Selfin, chief economist at KPMG UK. Yale's been a vital bridge between NABE and the global economics community. Throughout her involvement in the policy conference and in the international symposium, she has helped NABE connect with leading economists and policymakers across Europe. Yale's deep network and international perspective have been invaluable in broadening NABE's reach, and fostering meaningful global dialogue among economists. And finally, Julia Coronado, founder of Macro Policy Perspectives, who has been a true cornerstone of NABE's leadership for the past decade. Julia has served 7 years on the board, including as president and most recently as past president. Her macroeconomic expertise, her mentorship, expansive network have all shaped countless NABE programs and surveys and helped advance the CBE program. So on behalf of all of NABE, I want to thank Wilco. Thank you, Kathleen, Yale, and Julia for your service, for your leadership, and for your lasting contributions to our community. And not last contributions, but lasting, because I know you're not quite going anywhere, just rolling off the board. So if you could please come up and we will, I think, do a quick picture. Your plaques have not arrived, unfortunately.
Supply chain issues.
There.
Here's a good one, fam. Here's a good one. Justin, President Trump, Chinese President Xi Jinping scheduled meeting to discuss trade. White House official confirms. This one, we're going to be, of course, again, getting some information as far as what is going to happen with the trade war. We had something back in June, and well, it all changed. Now we're back to the table. So, yep, this is changing very, very fast. It happens. A lot of comments going in.
Powell first took office as chair of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System in February of 2018 for a 4-year term. And he was reappointed to the office and sworn in for a second 4-year term in May of 2022. He serves as chair of the Federal Open Market Committee, the system's principal monetary policy-making body. Mr. Powell has also served as a member of the Board of Governors since taking office on May 25th, 2012 to fill an unexpired term, and he was reappointed to the board in June of 2014 for a term ending in January of 2028. Prior to his appointment to the board, Mr. Powell was a visiting scholar at the Bipartisan Policy Center in Washington, D.C., where he focused on federal and state fiscal issues. From 1997 to 2005, he was a partner at the Carlyle Group. He served as an assistant secretary and as an undersecretary of the U.S. Department of the Treasury under President George H.W. Bush, with responsibility for policy on financial institutions, the Treasury debt market, and related areas. And prior to joining the Bush administration, he worked as a lawyer and investment banker in New York City. In addition to service on corporate boards, Mr. Powell has served on charitable and educational institutional boards, including the Bentheim Center for Finance at Princeton University and the Nature Conservancy of Washington, D.C. and Maryland. And of course, among his many other professional engagements, he has been a strong and consistent supporter of the National Association for Business Economics. And we are very grateful for that engagement. So because of that, we are very pleased to be presenting him today with the Adam Smith Award. The Adam Smith Award is NABE's highest honor, and it was named for the 18th century Scottish philosopher and economist whose ideas about economics led to the growth of modern capitalism. And this award has been given annually by NABE since 1982. And it is essentially, as one of my colleagues said to me, this is our Hall of Fame. Past recipients include several Fed presidents and prestigious economists across the spectrum, including Janet Yellen and Ben Bernanke, as well as Arthur Laffer, Susan Athey, and going a little bit further back, William Poole from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and Lawrence Klein, who won the award in 2004. We are very pleased today to be awarding this honor to Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell's exemplary leadership as chair of the Federal Reserve, especially in navigating the complexities of monetary policy during challenging times, has had a profound and lasting impact on both the U.S. economy and the global financial system. Under his stewardship, the Federal Reserve has effectively managed unprecedented economic challenges, including the COVID-19 pandemic, by taking a thoughtful and data-driven approach to monetary policy setting. His decisive actions to support economic recovery, promote financial stability, and ensure a resilient financial system have demonstrated an unwavering commitment to U.S. economic growth and well-being. The strength of his leadership has also earned him the respect of policymakers, economists, and business leaders worldwide. His work, particularly in the areas of monetary policy, financial regulation, and economic resilience, absolutely align with the ideals of the Adam Smith Award. He has consistently applied foundational economic principles to address real-world challenges, upholding the Federal Reserve's high standards of sound economic management and transparent policymaking in the process. So with that, I am very pleased to welcome to the stage Chair Jerome Powell. Thank you.
Here he comes. Come on, Powell. We'll want to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Here we go. Thank you very much. You got a
Yeah.
camera somewhere?
I thought we did, but maybe not.
There we go. We don't have a camera. There we go. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Emily. And thanks to the National Association for Business Economics for the Adam Smith Award. It, for me, is an unexpected honor just to be mentioned alongside many of your past recipients, including particularly my predecessors, Janet Yellen and Ben Bernanke. So thank you very much for this recognition. I'll say on a more personal note, I have greatly enjoyed my regular visits to your annual meeting and your conferences. It's really been my favorite venue all these years. It's a place. This is a place where we can talk about economic issues and not worry that someone's eyes might glaze over. I also appreciate the warm welcome I've always received here. And putting Fed staff aside for a minute, I can't think of a more lovable group of econ nerds anywhere. So thank you again for this prestigious award. And for the opportunity to speak to you here today. So, as we all know, monetary policy is more effective when the public understands what the Federal Reserve does and why. With that in mind, I hope to enhance understanding of one of the more arcane and technical aspects of monetary policy, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. A colleague recently compared this topic to a trip to the dentist, but I found that comparison somewhat unfair to dentists. So today I'll discuss the essential role that our balance sheet played during the pandemic, along with some lessons learned. I'll then review our ample reserves implementation framework and the progress we've made toward normalizing the size of our balance sheet. And I'll conclude with some brief remarks on the economic outlook.
Look at that green candle.
One of the primary purposes of a central bank is to provide the monetary foundation for the financial system and the broader economy. This foundation is made of central bank liabilities. On the Fed's balance sheet, the liability side of the ledger totaled $6.5 trillion as of October 8, and three categories account for roughly 95% of the total. First, Federal Reserve notes, that is physical currency, totaled $2.4 trillion. Second, reserves, funds held by depository institutions at Federal Reserve banks, totaled $3 trillion. These deposits allow commercial banks to make and receive payments and meet regulatory requirements. Reserves are the safest and most liquid asset in the financial system, and only the Fed can create them. The adequate provision of reserves is essential to the safety and soundness of our banking system, the resilience and efficiency of our payment system, and ultimately the stability of our economy. Third is the Treasury General Account, or TGA. currently at about $800 billion, which is essentially the checking account for the federal government. When the Treasury makes or receives payments, those flows affect dollar for dollar the supply of reserves or other liabilities in the system. The asset side of our ledger consists almost entirely of securities, including $4.2 trillion of U.S. Treasury securities and $2.1 trillion of government-guaranteed agency mortgage-backed securities, or MBS. When we add reserves to the system, we generally do so by purchasing Treasury securities in the open market and crediting the reserve accounts of the banks involved in the transaction with the seller. This process effectively transforms securities held by the public into reserves, but does not change the total amount of government liabilities held by the public. So, the Fed's balance sheet serves as a critical policy tool, especially when the policy rate is constrained by the effective lower bound, or ELB. When COVID-19 struck in March 2020, the economy came to a near standstill and financial markets seized up, threatening to transform a public health crisis into a severe, prolonged economic downturn. In response, we established a number of emergency liquidity facilities. Those programs, supported at the time by Congress and the administration, provided critical support to markets and were remarkably effective in restoring confidence and stability. At their peak in July 2020, loans from these facilities totaled just over $200 billion. Most of these loans conditions stabilized. That's normally the deepest and most liquid market in the world, and the bedrock of the global financial system was under extraordinary pressure and on the verge of collapse. We used large-scale purchases of securities to restore functionality to the Treasury market. Faced with unprecedented market dysfunction, the Fed purchased Treasury and agency securities at an extraordinary pace in March and April of 2020. These purchases supported the flow of credit to households and businesses and fostered more accommodative financial conditions to support the recovery of the economy when it ultimately came. This source of policy accommodation was particularly important as we had already lowered the federal funds rate close to zero and expected that it would remain there for some time. By June 2020, we slowed our purchase pace to a still substantial $120 billion per month. And in December of 2020, as the economic outlook remained highly uncertain, the FOMC said that we expected to maintain that pace of purchases until substantial further progress has been made toward the committee's maximum employment and price stability goals. That guidance provided assurance that the Fed would not prematurely withdraw support while the economic recovery remained fragile amid unprecedented conditions. And we maintained that pace of asset purchases through October 2021. By then, it had become apparent that elevated inflation was not likely to go away without a strong monetary response. At our meeting in November 2021, we announced a phase out of our purchases. And at our next meeting in December, we doubled the pace of that taper and said that asset purchases would conclude by mid-March of 2022. Over the entire period of purchases, our securities holdings increased by $4.6 trillion. So a number of observers have raised questions, fairly enough, about the size and composition of asset purchases during the pandemic recovery. Throughout 2020 and 21, the economy continued to face significant challenges as successive waves of COVID caused widespread disruption and loss. During that tumultuous period, we continued to purchase in order to avoid a sharp, unwelcome tightening of financial conditions at a time when the economy still appeared to be highly vulnerable. Our thinking was informed by recent episodes in which signals about reducing the balance sheet had triggered significant tightening in financial conditions. And we were thinking of the events of December 2018, as well as the 2013 taper tantrum. Regarding the composition of our purchases, some have questioned the inclusion of agency MBS purchases given the strong housing market during the pandemic recovery. Outside of purchases aimed specifically at market functioning, MBS purchases are primarily intended, like our purchases of Treasury securities, to ease broader financial conditions when the policy rate is constrained by the effective lower bound. The extent to which these MBS purchases disproportionately affected housing market conditions during that period is challenging to determine. Many factors affect the mortgage market, and many factors beyond the mortgage market affect supply and demand in the broader housing market. With the clarity of hindsight, we could have, and perhaps should have, stopped asset purchases sooner. Our real-time decisions were intended to serve as insurance against downside risks. We knew that we could unwind purchases relatively quickly once we ended them, which is exactly what we did. Research and experience tell us that asset purchases affect the economy through expectations regarding the future size and duration of our balance sheet, so that when we announced our taper, market participants began pricing in its effects, pulling forward the tightening in financial conditions. Stopping sooner could have made some difference, but not likely enough to fundamentally alter the trajectory of the economy. Nonetheless, our experience since 2020 does suggest that we can be more nimble in our use of the balance sheet and more confident that our communications will foster appropriate expectations among market participants, given their growing experience with these tools. Some have also argued that we could have better explained the purpose of asset purchases in real time. There's always room for improved communication, but I believe our statements were reasonably clear about our objectives, which were to support and then sustain smooth market functioning and to help foster accommodative financial conditions. Over time, the relative importance of those objectives evolved with economic conditions, but the objectives were never in conflict. So at the time, this issue appeared to be a distinction without much of a difference. That's not always the case, of course. For example, the March 2023 banking stress led to a sizable increase in our balance sheet through lending operations. We clearly differentiated these financial stability operations from our monetary policy stance. Indeed, we continued to raise the policy rate through that time. Turning to my second topic, our ample reserves regime has proven highly effective, delivering good control of our policy rate across a wide range of challenging economic conditions while promoting financial stability and supporting a resilient payment system. In this framework, an ample supply of reserves ensures adequate liquidity in the banking system, and control of our policy rate is achieved through the setting of our administered rates, interest on reserve balances, and the overnight repurchase rate. Reverse repo rate, rather. This approach allows us to maintain rate control independently of the size of our balance sheet. And that's important given large unpredictable swings in liquidity demand from the private sector and significant fluctuations in the autonomous factors affecting reserve supply, such as the TGA. This framework has proved resilient whether the balance sheet is shrinking or growing. Since June 2022, we've reduced the size of our balance sheet by $2.2 trillion, from 35% to just under 22% of GDP, while maintaining effective interest rate control. Our long-stated plan is to stop balance sheet runoff when reserves are somewhat above the level we judge consistent with ample reserves conditions. We may approach that point in coming months, and we are closely monitoring a wide range of indicators to inform this decision. Some signs have begun to emerge that liquidity conditions are gradually ending, including a general firming of repo rates, along with more noticeable but temporary pressures on selected dates. The committee's plans lay out a deliberately cautious approach to avoid the kind of money market strains experienced in September 2019. Moreover, the tools of our implementation framework, including the standing repo facility and the discount window, will help contain funding pressures and keep the federal funds rate within our target range through this transition to lower reserve levels. Normalizing the size of our balance sheet does not mean going back to the balance sheet we had before the pandemic. In the longer run, the size of our balance sheet is determined by the public's demand for our liabilities rather than by our pandemic-related asset purchases. Non-reserve liabilities currently stand about $1.1 trillion higher than just prior to the pandemic, thus requiring that our securities holdings be equally higher. Demand for reserves has risen as well, in part reflecting the growth of the banking system and the overall economy. Regarding the composition of our securities portfolio, relative to the outstanding universe of Treasury securities, our portfolio is currently overweight longer-term securities and underweight shorter-term securities. The longer-run composition will be a topic of committee discussion. Transition to our desired composition will occur gradually and predictably, giving market participants time to adjust and minimizing the risk of market disruption. Consistent with our longstanding guidance, we aim for a portfolio consisting primarily of Treasury securities over the longer run. Some have questioned whether the interest we pay on reserves is costly to taxpayers. In fact, that is not the case. The Fed earns interest income from Treasury securities that back reserves. Most of the time, our interest earnings from Treasury holdings more than cover the interest paid on reserves, generating significant remittances to the Treasury. By law, we remit all profits to the Treasury after covering expenses. And since 2008, even after accounting for the recent period of negative net income, our total remittances to Treasury have totaled more than $900 billion. While our net interest income has temporarily been negative due to the rapid rise in policy rates to control inflation, this is highly unusual. Our net income will soon turn positive again, as it typically has been throughout our history. Of course, having negative net income has no bearing at all on our ability to conduct monetary policy or meet our financial obligations. If our ability to pay interest on reserves and other liabilities were eliminated, the Fed would lose control over rates. The stance of monetary policy would no longer be appropriately calibrated to economic conditions and would push the economy away from our employment and price stability goals. To restore rate control, large sales of securities over a short period of time would be needed to shrink our balance sheet and the quantity of reserves in the system. The volume and speed of these sales could strain Treasury market functioning and compromise financial stability. Market participants would need to absorb the sales of Treasury securities and agency MBS, which would put upward pressure on the entire yield curve, raising borrowing costs for the Treasury and private sector. Even after that volatile and disruptive process, the banking system would be less resilient and more vulnerable to liquidity shocks. The bottom line is that our ample reserves regime has proven remarkably effective for implementing monetary policy and supporting economic and financial stability. So I will close with a brief discussion of the economy and the outlook for monetary policy. Although some important government data have been delayed due to the shutdown, we routinely review a wide variety of public and private sector data that have remained available. We also maintain a nationwide network of contacts through the reserve banks who provide valuable insights, which will be summarized in tomorrow's beige book. Based on the data we do have, it's fair to say that the outlook for employment and inflation does not appear to have changed much since our September meeting 4 weeks ago. Data available prior to the shutdown, however, show that growth in economic activity may be on a somewhat firmer trajectory than expected. While the unemployment rate remained low through August, payroll gains have slowed sharply, likely in part due to a decline in labor force growth due to lower immigration and lower labor force participation. In this less dynamic and somewhat softer labor market, the downside risks to employment appear to have risen. While official employment data for September are delayed, available evidence suggests that both layoffs and hiring remain low, and that both households' perceptions of job availability and firms' perceptions of hiring difficulty continue their downward trajectories. Meanwhile, 12-month core PCE inflation was 2.9% in August, up slightly from earlier this year, as rising core goods inflation has outpaced continued disinflation in housing services. Available data and surveys continue to show that goods price increases primarily reflect tariffs rather than broader inflationary pressures. Consistent with these effects, near-term inflation expectations have generally increased this year, while most longer-term expectation measures remain aligned with our 2% goal. Rising downside risks to employment have shifted our assessment of the balance of risks. As a result, we judged it appropriate to take another step toward a more neutral policy stance at our September meeting. There is no risk-free path for policy as we navigate the tension between our employment and inflation goals. This challenge was evident in the dispersion of committee participants' projections at the September meeting. And I'll stress again that these projections should be understood as representing a range of potential outcomes whose probabilities evolve as new information informs our meeting-by-meeting approach to policymaking. We'll set policy based on the evolution of the economic outlook and the balance of risks rather than following a predetermined path. And with that, thank you again for this wonderful award and for inviting me here today. I look forward to our discussion. Thank you.
Classic Jerome Powell style.
No, buddy.
It's like Trump, when he speaks, we get exactly what he says. When this guy speaks, it's like, are you cutting or not, brother?
Thank you, Chair Powell, for the excellent remarks in the Adam Smith address. And
Like
we will
everybody.
have about half an hour
Welcome.
for questions. So
Sounds like a long
should have
time.
talked longer. So let me start with, before I go to some of the questions coming in from the audience, and do use the Connect app to generate those. You have said, and you repeated again here, that there are no risk-free paths for the Fed now. So in light of that, and in particular, with where the recent inflation data are running, let me group this with some of the questions that we're seeing coming in on the app as well. Obviously, always data dependent. But thinking about the dual mandate of maximum employment and price stability, how concerned are you that if the rate of pass-through of tariffs is slower, that might begin to look like more persistent inflation as opposed to a one-time, as if the tariff adjustment came through all at once, and then it would be quite clearly a one-time price level shift?
So that's certainly a risk. As I mentioned, there really isn't a risk-free path now since it appears that inflation is running above our target and appears to be continuing to increase quite gradually, but increase. It's still on the way up. So there's a risk there that would lend to greater persistence. But now the labor market has demonstrated pretty significant downside risks as payroll jobs have declined, and both the supply and demand for labor has declined quite sharply. So those two states of affairs for our two goal variables, call for different monetary policy responses. So as they come more into balance, I think the idea has been that policy should move from being tight to some degree to being more neutral as those two things balance out. But it is clear, though, that if we move too quickly, then we may leave the inflation job unfinished and have to come back later and finish it. And if we move too slowly, there may be unnecessary losses, painful losses in the employment market. So we're in the difficult situation of balancing those two things. I think for the last few months, we've been able to maintain a restrictive stance because the labor market was still pretty solid. I think that the data we got right after the July meeting showed that, which adjusted back all the way through May, showed that the labor market has actually softened pretty considerably and puts us in a situation where the two risks are closer to being in balance.
Let's move to the other risk then and talk about employment a little bit. We had Anna Paulson here yesterday, and she spoke about the break-even unemployment or break-even employment growth rate. And that's a question from the audience as well. So I believe she said that it's certainly lower than it was, and the standard error around those estimates probably includes some numbers that might even be negative. Where do you see the monthly break-even employment growth rate at this point?
I'm not going to try to give you a pinpoint number, but as you pointed out, the standard error around these things is 50,000 plus or minus, something like that. And that would certainly, I think, the range of plausible numbers for the break-even rate is probably does go below zero, accounting for those standard errors. It's clearly come down a great deal. And that's what's so challenging about this is that both supply and demand in the labor market have come down so sharply, so quickly. And the fact that the unemployment rate has barely moved is kind of remarkable in and of itself, and suggests that they're moving at roughly the same pace. Although, of course, the unemployment rate has ticked up, which suggests that demand is moving a little faster than supply. I wouldn't want to point to a specific number other than to say that it's come way down. And there are many estimates out there. By the way, there are many ways to calculate it, so you're going to get different estimates.
We're certainly in a volatile and changing environment. So one question I have is whether you see any changes in the transmission mechanism of monetary policy actions. So when we speak of long and variable lags, as we do, are those changing? And in particular, do you think there might be any difference in the impacts of policy on inflation versus employment? Is one changing more than the other?
That's like two or three questions, so I might have to come back to you. That's right. So on transmission, there, in theory, at least, I see two things. One is, what we say and the actions that we take on monetary policy and how quickly that gets into financial markets. So if you go back to when I was in college, that part would have taken, weeks, months, probably. And now that part happens essentially instantaneously. But the rest of it, once it's in the financial markets, how quickly does it affect economic activity, unemployment, employment, inflation, et cetera? I think that's more dependent on the conditions in the economy. For example, if you take the group of people who had extremely low rate mortgages, right? And even so, if you can cut rates, but they're a long way down, and they're sort of in a place where it's going to be expensive to move and to take out a much higher rate mortgage, even assuming significant numbers of cuts. So that has probably blunted the transmission of lower rates into that part of the economy. But overall, I think it still works the way we think it works, which is, long and variable lags means a lot of uncertainty about how it's being affected. I think the last part of your question, the lore has been that inflation and employment come later. The first decisions are purchasing decisions, hiring decisions, and things. Well, purchasing decisions, can be affected probably more quickly, but then those would eventually affect employment and inflation. So longer lags are when the research generally shows longer and longer lags for employment and inflation.
And I guess the variable part of that comment does give us a bit of cover.
A lot of uncertainty.
So you spoke about the adjustments or the challenges that you're facing with some government data not currently being published. Beyond the headline unemployment rate, which we're not going to see right away, what other labor market indicators are you monitoring most closely to gauge that side of the mandate?
So I think everyone's looking at the same non-government data. So there's a set of non-government data around, or non-federal government data around labor markets. For example, state level unemployment, claim reports. You can add those up and get a pretty decent estimate, and that's a really good one. There's also ADP has its data and employment. So in the employment space, there's some plausible data. I will say generally the private data, the alternative data that we look at is better used as a supplement for the underlying governmental data, which is the gold standard. And it won't be as effective as the main course as it would have been as a supplement. So we don't expect that we'd be able to replace the data we're not getting. So I think in job, in employment space, there's some pretty good substitutes, less so in inflation space. And in economic activity space. And also they're just, there are different private data providers use different universes and different levels of rigor in their data analysis. So, we're looking at lots of things, and, we're going to make our decisions according to the FOMC schedule. But I think it will be a lot better once we start getting, for example, the September employment report is going to be a very important report, and we're not on track to have that. There would still be time for us to get that. We will get, of course, the September inflation, the CPI and PPI reports. So that's a positive. But we don't comment on fiscal matters, but from our standpoint, we'll start to miss that data, and particularly the October data. If this goes on for a while, they won't be collecting it, and it could become more challenging.
You used the term gold standard, and you didn't mean it in this context, but I'm going to pivot here because there's a question from the audience that's getting a lot of upvotes. So one of your predecessors, Alan Greenspan, used to view the price of gold as an indicator of inflation risk. So in that context, how do you view the rally that we've seen in gold? And if you want to throw in Bitcoin, you can comment on that too.
I'm not going to comment on any particular asset price, including
that
one. And I think we think of inflation as driven by fundamental supply and demand factors, and it's not something we look at actively.
Fair.
Wow. Boring.
The September projections, we saw revised GDP growth projections revised upward for both 2025 and 2026. Now, sometimes it's just an issue to issue thing, but how do you reconcile that projection of stronger growth with what we're seeing in terms of a likely weakening labor market?
So even subsequent to the September SEP, we've seen economic activity data which are surprising to the upside. And as I mentioned in my remarks, so you do have a bit of a tension there between the labor market data that we see, very low levels of job creation, and yet people are spending. So economic activity is strong, and it's we're going to have to see how that plays out. Right now, of course, we're not getting any new government data on that, any new federal government data on that, but it does create, of course, if economic activity were stronger, then that would tend to support labor market activities and hiring. So we'll have to see how that works out.
Another topic that has permeated the conference over the last 2 days has been AI. So as the Federal Reserve, like all of us, grapple with the implications of generative AI, what plans are in place to assess its long-term impact on productivity, implications for labor markets, and overall economic stability? And does that present any new risks to monetary policy or financial stability?
So you're right. We're doing what other people are doing, which is reading all the things that, so many researchers.
Give me 1 minute, everybody. Welcome. Man, it's like when you're trying to get a good piece from this guy, right? Not helping himself as far as like getting engaged or having, an audience entertained or attentive. You have to understand it's a room full of economists, right? And that's the way they speak. That's the way they understand each other. Very analytical. And I see the people right now just boring to death, right? Because he's not really saying anything that's, spicy or so, which I get it, right? I obviously get it. But it's going to be a complete change once we have a new guy or, a new person in the seat. Because I can tell you, we're not listening to him, but he's not saying anything important.
What it will be. We also monitor very carefully what public companies are saying. Increasingly bold statements from mainly large private companies on things that they think they can do across their whole business area with AI, and either sort of freeze hiring where it is or reduce hiring. And I think we're pretty aware of what the potential outcomes are, but the range of potential outcomes is very broad. I will say, in terms of what the Fed can do, we deal with supply and demand. We have an interest rate, and we also do regulation, that kind of thing. But if what's needed is greater education and skills, I've always liked the model that technology can work for everybody as long as everybody's getting the skills and aptitudes they need to use that technology. This is Golden and Katz, their work, which they actually spoke about at Jackson Hole this year, but it's a 20-year-old book that they wrote. So we can't do that. That's not something the Fed can do. We also can't address the potential societal disruptions that could happen, potentially, if there's really significant job loss. So there are a lot of, we're the least of it. There are potentially really significant implications for people in the labor force. And I think we're all speculating about what those might be, but it's only the beginning of this story.
Yeah. Looking at some of the other questions that are getting upvoted, and you can get as far into the weeds as you want, but this is where people want to go. So let me try this one. As you think of the appropriate level of reserves in the system, what indicators are most important? Is it the price of money, so repo levels, or the volume of borrowings from the Fed, like the discount window, and so on?
So we have a nice spider chart and 5 main indicators, one of which is sort of repo levels. And I think overall what they're showing is that we're still at ample reserves. abundant reserves. We're still at abundant reserves, meaning above our goal of ample reserves, a little bit above ample reserves. So, but we're beginning to see, you're starting to see
Spider short.
a little bit of tightening in money market conditions, particularly repo rates have moved up. And those are the things we're going to be watching. So we think we're still at abundant, and we're, the pace of runoff is now very, very slow. So we're going to be watching all those factors very carefully. And we're not so far away now, but there's a ways to go.
I think we're not going to get away without addressing this one. So I'll try to, again, group some of these together. First, there's definitely appreciation from the audience and your ability to try to remain above the political fray. And I think also, and as in your remarks, you said gradually and predictably, and that sounds really nice right about now. But with that ongoing scrutiny of the policy decisions of the Fed, what measures is the Federal Reserve taking, and are you taking, to ensure and demonstrate the continued independence in setting monetary policy?
So the main thing we can continue to do is to do our work the way we've always done it, which is, think really carefully about evolving economic conditions and the evolving outlook and the balance of risks, and try to make good decisions to best serve, the American public. And then explain those decisions and talk about them in a way that makes sense and is grounded in the data and our overall approach. I think we're going to keep doing that. And as long as we're doing that, people will be able to tell. If we start doing something else, I think people will be able to tell that too. But that's just not something we're ever going to do. We're always going to keep doing our work. We don't engage in back and forth with people. It's just not that gets to be political sort of right away. So we just do our work and do it as best we can. I mean, overall, I would say the Fed comes through the last, if you think about it, go back to the beginning of the global financial crisis. We've had two world historical crises back to back, essentially. And the U.S. economy, it's been quite a ride for the U.S. economy and for American citizens, but we've come through it as well or better than any other country in the world. And we had to innovate and did innovate. There was really no choice. We can look back now and as I did today and second guess ourselves, which is only appropriate. That we've been doing it for 10 years. Since I got to the Fed 12 years ago, we were already doing a lot of that. So that's an ongoing process. But I think if you take a step back, the Fed isn't a government agency that does a good job for the public that it serves, and that is our only goal. And I think we do it pretty well. Don't look for perfection. These are close calls that have to be made in real time. But I guess that's what I would say.
It's fantastic. And in that context, then internally to the FOMC, how important is it that you have consensus on it? I mean, we're economists. We understand the value of spirited debate, but is that important in terms of communicating the results and the decisions of the committee?
I mean, consensus is great, but I mean, the most important thing of all is to get it right. And, that you come to places, not very commonly, but sometimes you come to places where people are going to have different views. And this is one of them. You have a situation here where literally inflation's above target and gently rising. The labor market is subject to pretty clear downside risks. What do you do? How do you think about that? That's not a problem that you face very often in central banking or in the economy. And people are going to have different weights and different risk aversion and different risk appetites on those things. It would be kind of surprising if you had no debate over those things. So we have a healthy debate going on. I think it's very healthy. I think the meetings that we've been having are as good as any we've had, in terms of people sincerely, giving their absolute best argument for their positions, but they're different positions. That's, when I was an investor, I always felt like the most dangerous thing is if everybody agreed on something, because you need someone to come in and try to explain why this is a terrible idea. Hopefully somebody really smart. And that would give you the ability to really test your thinking. So I think that's a healthy discussion that we're having right now. And I'm not at all surprised that we have people across the board. I do think we also, as an institution, do try to come together around, a central answer. And that's, of course, part of what I try to do is, find an answer that will attract as much support as possible.
Absolutely. I know you probably won't want to comment in great detail on global conditions, but there are a few questions around that and what that implies for U.S. monetary policy, and also just looking at the interest rate differentials between the U.S. and other advanced economies, and how long that could persist, and is there a risk there?
Sorry,
the interest rate differentials between the U.S. and other advanced economies.
Yeah, I mean, we set interest rates according to, the place where our economy is domestically, taking into account the international aspects of our economy. So again, it's not surprising. I mean, you could name many, many factors, but, for example, tariffs are clearly more disinflationary for countries that are subjected to them, and they're more, I won't say heavily inflationary, but there's some inflationary pass-through to consumers from countries that are putting tariffs on. So there's a very different monetary policy response potentially just in that. So, I think we need to set, as every other central bank does, they're setting rates in their, whatever their, remit is geographically, and they're going to be different answers. It's not unusual.
So we have a large number of young economists in the audience today. Could you talk a little bit about, as we look back and, it's a momentous award, it's a nice time to reflect. If you looked back on your early career and your early goals, how do you think that young Jerome Powell would view where Jerome Powell is sitting today as chair of the Federal Reserve?
Surprised. No, I would say, so what I would tell young economists is you've chosen a great profession, a tremendous profession. You're getting the tools to analyze public policy and what works and what doesn't work and what should be expected to work and wouldn't and why. And also what's the state of the economy. And guess what? It's not just hard, it's basically impossible. But it's a very, very difficult thing, but it yields itself up over time. And, it's just an incredibly important subject that carries the capability to do really good things for the general public, who may not feel great gratitude toward economists, but sometimes. But no, it's really important. You made a great choice. And I would say, wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Agree. Okay, we'll do a little bit of a lightning round here. We have about 5 minutes left, so I'll ask a bunch of questions that you may not want to get into great detail on anyway. Yeah.
Come on.
Some of these are pretty straightforward, but so we talked quite a bit about labor markets, but we have not specifically asked the question about the effect of immigration policies on labor supply.
It's not gonna say anything.
How restrictive do you think that current policy is, and is that something that will just
current immigration policy?
Yeah.
Yes. Let me start by saying that we don't have a view on immigration. It's not our job to have a view. So we take that as completely, it is what it is. We take it as it arrives. More, I'd say, stronger policy than most people had expected. We've seen a very sharp decline in growth of the labor force and in people entering the country, and yeah, I think you're only beginning to see the strength of that policy too. There's more expulsions; those are rising, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's a big economic factor. So that will mean fewer people to work. You have anecdotal evidence of industries that are just having a hard time finding people. You don't see it in wages or anything like that at this point. You don't see, at least in the aggregate, you don't. But yeah, it's going to be a really important economic fact because that's new people who come into the workforce. They create their supply, but they also create demand. They create their own demand, and again, from our standpoint, we're just our job is to is to achieve maximum employment or maximum sustainable employment. And that will depend both on the supply of workers and the demand for workers.
Back to the balance sheet, some questions. Again, I'll kind of try to group these together around mortgage-backed securities and housing affordability. Again, not directly part of the dual mandate, but would the Fed ever look at any specific actions with regard to MBS to address mortgage rates or affordability for housing?
The answer is, look, we look at overall inflation and we don't target housing prices. And also I don't know how you would, we would certainly not engage in mortgage-backed security purchases as a way of addressing mortgage rates or housing directly. That's not what we do. We do have, as I mentioned, a very large amount of mortgage-backed securities, and they're running off, but they run off pretty slowly.
Fair. Question on the beverage curve. Maybe that's not a lightning round question, but let's try it. So do you think that the shift in the beverage curve is a structural shift or just a blip?
I think it's, you're at a place where, further declines in job openings might very well start to show up in unemployment. You've had this amazing time where you came straight down but I just think you're going to reach a point at which unemployment starts to go up. And we may be hitting that now, but it's been remarkable how that line, it just comes down, 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 down. And, which has been, really a great part of the recovery.
All right. Well, we have just a couple minutes left. I think we'll end with maybe another sort of philosophical question. Michael Barr spoke to the policy conference in 2024, I believe it was, and he gave some advice to economists. What would your advice be to the economists in the room in terms of how we can best serve the challenges that are facing us collectively in this moment?
I'm inclined to say, keep your heads up. It's a time when people are challenging expertise, and I think it's a distinguished profession. It's a very high order profession, and you should be proud of your work and keep at it. Ultimately, we're learning about how the economy works and how society works. Our understanding is so basic and so uncertain, really, still after all these years. But, you got to think we're making some progress and doing some good and imposing, sort of an analytical framework around the kind of decisions people make about the economy. So I just want to give you a vote of support and say, keep at it.
And likewise, NABE supports you.
What was that? Oh, they're clapping. They're clapping.
Are we done?
We're done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think Jerome Powell is your typical introverted guy, super smart, but weird. He's not saying it. He won't say anything. He will never say anything that matters to us as investors, right? He will never say anything. All the things he's going to say is like a balance of risk and keeping the balance sheet, right? But yeah, that was long in a way, about an hour, fam. That was pretty cool. Now we have another one coming in. Trump welcomes Argentina's President Milei to the White House. And we have this one, everybody. So let me go ahead and change a few things. Should be coming in any moment right now. And then after this, they're going to go to the Oval Office and they're going to be talking. Welcome, 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 fam. We go ahead and get a few things done for us. Oh, Jerome Powell. The classic Jerome Powell. XRP holding the line at 250s, not bad. We like that. We like that. All right. All right. So while we wait, oh, that was long, man. That was okay. So to people who don't know or just came here to listen to Powell, I would just finish listening him accepting an award and talking a little bit about the economy, the plans for the FOMC, and what they're planning for the next decision. And there's nothing new. Absolutely nothing new. Everything is the same. There's just no headlines, only just what we already know. Things are looking weird and choppy and odd because of the shutdown and because of tariffs and because of China and because of inflation going up, like the same thing that we already know, right? So nothing out of the ordinary, or just that they are not cutting or moving too drastic with monetary policy, so the inflation and the U.S. can keep up with a nice economy. They're still dovish in a way. You're still looking at cutting 25 basis point, right? They're still looking at that. So yeah, I mean, just holding and waiting for more CPI, PPI, waiting for the jobs report for September and all of that. And then we're going to be coming in for almost the end of October for that FOMC cut. So that was Jerome Powell. I think many people, including on the Associated Press and many people here watching, right, we can tell that when you're trying to explain something, when you're trying to speak, when you're trying to discuss or just address an audience, and you're using words that are not gonna be easy to comprehend for people, or like easy to just store, then you're not really trying to tell an audience, right, what you're trying to talk about, right? That's one of the things that people appreciate about Trump a lot, because the guy, he just doesn't have a filter, right? He just says the way that people think. That's why he is extremely popular, right? He's going to talk about many things about Argentina right now, and we're going to go, because he's coming back from the Middle East. So there's going to be a bunch of questions about, what happened with the peace at the peace summit, what's going on with China, what's going on with this and that, and Russia. I was hearing that Russia is now looking at Tomahawk missiles, and I'm like, what's going on with that? So yeah, there's all kinds of things happening in the world right now, as you can tell. And my job, which I really like, is simple: just to bring all these macro geopolitical issues to the table, explaining or trying to paint a picture as far as why the price of crypto, the price of XRP, the price of all the things that we follow on a daily basis are not going at the speed that we want. Because I see the comments and people are like, where's Pumptober, Oscar? Where is October, right? I mean, where is the month at? Like, we are in Q4. It's October 14th. Everybody is ready. People got liquidated because they believed that Pumptober was going to be this massive month. Now with $20+ billion of longs gone. So what's next? So yeah, right now we're going to be listening for a little bit. Later on, there's going to be the Medal of Freedom for Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to be live for that because I'll be already tired for it. So yeah, that's going to be too much for me. But that's another thing that if you want to hear. Now, we have BlackRock CEO. There's a few snippets of the conversation he had earlier today. So I want to listen to that, guys, while we wait live. But before we continue, go ahead and like the live right now. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, guys, and turn on the notification bell button so you never miss an update. And join me on BTCC, which is the first link down below, so you can start trading and preparing your positions, right? Buying spot, whatever you want to do, guys. We have a 3,000 XRP giveaway at the end of the month. We already have one winner, which I saw earlier. He's already in my Discord server, so kudos. If you're here, Mart, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and make you a mod too. Kudos. Just want to make sure that all of my winners, right, get the appreciation, because that's really, really important. So, yeah. It's going to be a long one, guys. We like it. So, this is Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO.
Digital. I do believe we're just at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets, from real estate to equities to bonds across the board. It's very loud here. It's very loud, but it's good. Capital's at work. I already like that. I love capital at work. Yeah. There's $4.1 trillion of money in globally in digital wallets. A lot of that money is outside the United States. If we could tokenize a ETF, digitize that ETF, we could have investors who are just beginning to, invest in markets through, let's say, crypto. They're investing in it, but now we could get them into the more traditional long-term retirement products. So we look at that as the next wave of opportunity for BlackRock over the next tens of years, as we start focusing on moving away from, traditional financial assets by repotting them in a digital manner, and then having people stay in that digital ecosystem. They can have their cash, and we have the largest cash money market fund that's tokenized called BITL. Our Bitcoin IBIT is now over $100 billion.
I know from nothing not that long ago.
Around 2 years ago, zero.
Yeah, I know. Well, you were always a huge proponent of crypto, as we know.
Yep. I love it, but I grow and learn. I heard you say that on 60 Minutes. I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, it's always trying to poke BlackRock. They know that they're the big guys. More than $15 trillion of assets under management. It's important to keep a close eye to BlackRock. And yeah, right now there's a bunch of comments, coming from the Fed chair, but we were there. Nothing really big other than, yeah, little by little, we're gonna be getting more and more cuts. That's the expectation. Warming up the money printer. Stacking. That's what we want to do. Eleanor, 2 hours ago, moving away from traditional financial assets and making them digital. If we can tokenize an ETF, we can have investors who are just beginning to invest in markets through, let's say, crypto, but we can get them into the more traditional long-term retirement products. One of the things that we saw months ago was the IRAs, right? The push to get retirement into crypto, open them up to crypto. BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, and many of those big companies are so eager, right, to have it in crypto. There's just like, if you think you're making a bunch of money with your XRP by holding it, you're right, as the price appreciates in value. But you know who's really making the most money? That stupid, crazy money? All the companies. They don't really show it off, right? But the balance sheets is exactly where money speaks. And I mean, they're going to be making a killing, right? We know that insiders always make a bunch of money. We just saw that in all kinds of launches, World Liberty Financial, Trump, Melania, Aster. We saw the big crash, right? How shorts made millions of dollars opening shorts right hours before, right? The announcement. That just happens in crypto all the time, right? Because you are holding an asset expecting a higher return. It takes a while. It takes a long while to now we're seeing to see a 190 billion, 150 billion dollar asset 2x go from 150 to 300 billion dollars, right? It can happen. It can for sure. But just think about it. It's not gonna be easy because everyone is looking at it. Everybody knows, and there's many barriers to get there, right? Manipulation, insider trading, selling, and all kinds of things. But what doesn't take that much to see an asset pump is when you bet on the market and you're successful and you have those sources that help you, right? Could you imagine, having someone telling you, or being in a circle, hearing people saying, tomorrow there's gonna be a tweet, or tomorrow the president is thinking about sharing this to the world. What is it? That they're declaring war, or they're declaring an attack, or they're declaring a change, they're declaring, whatever it is, military, politically, socially, all of that, it changes. I remember that if we go back June or July this year, I'm not sure, I think it was some June or so, someone opened a short hours before the Midnight Hammer attack, or like the missile, attack in Iran. I remember that. So obviously somebody knew that post was coming in, because the attack was, planned already. The B-2 bombers flew hours, 30 plus hours to get to the objective, right? So we knew that. But the post made by Donald J. Trump, everybody was waiting for, right? Everybody was looking at, there's 7 days of, and after the 7 days, the U.S. is going to do something, right? It was in between, right? The U.S. was pretty smart at planning something behind closed doors. But there's always people, right, that know what's cooking, and they want to make the most money with it. So obviously, once we hear about the attack, or once we hear about that successful mission, guess what the market responded with? Guess what the market responded with? A drop, a correction. I remember, because World War III was just all over X. World War III. Nothing happened, thankfully, right? As we know, that's been a few months ever since the mission. I gotta say that there's so much going on in the last 4 or 5 months when it comes to conflicts. That's one of the reasons that we just cannot see an exit to pump and to actually see greatness. And now we're in Q4, October, and people are still wondering, well, what's happening, right? So I just wanted to give my entire audience right now a summary, really, of the whys and what's going on, and why are we taking that forever to have some good news, because we do have a lot of perfect news for crypto, just that the geopolitical landscape, it's dominating. The dominance that The dominance it has over the market is so huge, so big, so vast. It scares everyone. It scares big whales. So, and it all comes from, mostly, it all comes from the White House, right? It's one of the reasons that I always like to listen to what Trump has to say. And that's why we're live when he's here. You see? And when I'm live, I just want to give you guys the best we got and provide some different conversations. It's always going to be nonsense going on. And we just have to go through the punches, man. There's just no other way to explain it. We just have to go through the punches. I mean, there's he just posted something here on Truth Social. Let's see. 6 minutes ago, 26 minutes ago, 39 minutes ago. Yeah, okay. Just got back from the Middle East. What a point in time it was. The crowd for Charlie Kirk's Presidential Medal of Freedom presentation is so big and very happy. You move it to the Rose Garden. Okay. That's going to happen later today. Won't be live for that, but it's going to happen. This one says all 20 hostages are back. Okay. And this is promoting his songs, Eric Trump book. There's no mention to this meeting with Argentina, just what's happening later today. Justin, Stripe adds crypto stablecoin payments for subscription. Not bad. It's good. Yep. This was not a big shocker, but I mean, they did mention Bitcoin, right? Never said crypto, but they did say Bitcoin, and the interviewer, Fed Chair Jerome Powell, says he will not comment on Bitcoin or gold. We think inflation is driven by fundamental supply and demand factors. Yeah. Bro definitely has a bag. Yeah. That was Jerome Powell. Earlier today, we saw him. Powell seems ready to retire, laments 30 minutes of questions being a long time. Mid Kevin, you and I have the same idea, right? This guy, there's no excitement in him. I mean, you got to project something, right, to the world that the United States economy is eager to move in a cool direction, that it's obviously protecting U.S. interest, keeping things balanced, but also taking a little bit of a new approach with the new challenges that we face, including digital assets, AI. That's what we need. Eric Trump is another inverse indicator like Jim Cramer. I know, right? Taking a look at the comments, fam. Who's Oscar talking to? You, fam. Talking to you guys. JP's a legend. What's up, JB? Good to see you, buddy. Welcome. TJ in the house. Ghost here too. That's nice. XRP to the bottom of the ocean. It's down. Not at the lowest, I gotta tell you, but it's down. Everybody's waiting. Coming in soon. Don't forget to drop a like, everybody. Consider subscribing to the channel, and welcome. With over 2,700 votes, today Crypto Wheel, enjoy, and Nothing Burger with Cheese is winning. That is what's winning right now. I think a lot of people are a little bit tired. Oscar, can you tell us your price targets this year for XRP? Sure. Passing $4 or $5, I think, shouldn't be a problem. Shouldn't be a problem. That is, I mean, we can do a 2x for XRP going to 6. The question is, when? Well, I'll tell you something, guys. In 1 week, XRP can go to $4. Even more, even higher, right? But I think in 1 week, XRP breaks 3, goes to $4. Within 1 month, a good 1 month, with some bull traps and so, we can break $5, get closer to 6, and go higher. There's a chance. That is a reality that people seem too skeptical, which is okay. That's you. That's you. But just with the right events happening, we can do that, right? So we've been suppressed. We've been suppressed. Not only the price of XRP, but the price of crypto, altcoins. Ethereum hasn't gone past 5,000. BTC, was 120 plus, 125, 6,000. So just a matter of time, Nothing happening right now to crypto is crypto's fault. Nothing happening right now to crypto is crypto's fault. Nothing. It's just the nonsense that we are seeing in the world. There's a lot of pain, so we have to roll with the punches. That's it. 2x ETF, 10x Clarity Act going live. Bro, Clarity Act. And a bunch of ETFs. Much higher for sure. Much higher. Oh, who do we have here? He's coming soon now. I don't think the ETFs are going to move the price much. They will. You just have to be, I think, one after the other in a good week. It's going to be fine. The year chart is still 380% and people are crying. What's up, Star-Lord? Good to see you, buddy. Welcome. How long could ETFs get delayed due to shutdown? The ETFs are going through the SEC, and I believe the SEC it's federal, but I don't think I don't know if it gets affected by the shutdown. I'm not sure about that. If you guys know, let me know. BingX in the chat. What's up, buddy? Welcome. To my knowledge, the SEC and the CFTC are still running today. Are still working. Yeah, not affected. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Roro. Good to see you. Welcome. Now you're gonna see a big change from Jerome Powell, who was boring us to death, to Donald J. Trump and Milei. Guys, it's been a week since I just came back from Singapore, and I don't know why I'm having a hard time getting used to this You know the time? Oh, man. Anyway, been some pretty tough days. But always really happy to have you guys. And welcome, Chipper, John316, TJ, Godstrud in the house. Deshaun. And then the government is back open and they still did delay in the ETFs. It's crazy, right? It's just like... This is all the nonsense we have to go through, guys. All the nonsense we have to go through. And that's really one of the big reasons that people do leverage. Why, Oscar? Because you want us to get everybody liquidated or what? No. You buy whatever you want. It's your money. You lose is your loss. You win is your win. People like to show off the wins, right? People like to show how much they made. Great. It's your money. Enjoy. Enjoy the games. But what I'm saying is that if you want to make $10,000 in a trade, you need $100,000 worth of XRP to do 10% to make $10,000, right? Not that difficult, but you still need a good 10% pump. Or you can just start with at 1,000 XRP margin position doing leverage, and you use some long, and there you have it. It's risky, but that's what people do there. That's what a lot of traders go for. Crazy thing is that you take a look at the latest. We've had a 14% pump from the 11th to the 13th, so the last 2 days, right? And then on the 13th to today, the 14th, right, we're coming down, going up. So you have the volatility you need to come in and get out, come in and get out. But the biggest, it's right here. Look at this. For XRP, 100%, guys. What a nice return, right? What a nice return. So if you zoom out, you're gonna see that a lot of money there to be made. Okay, one more cup, and he's gonna be there. Be back. Okay, guys. We're moments away from seeing this. And after this, the conversation. After the conversation, some Q&As. Peter, welcome, buddy. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome, welcome. Thanks, Peter, so much. What's up, Ranch? Good to see you, buddy. Welcome. That's gonna be Ledger Tresor. I love those two. Yourself is gonna be a new day to look out, of course. Welcome to the markets. That's what always happens.
Cars moving.
There's Trump. Milei. So we're gonna have a Spanish commentary here too in the translation.
President Trump, sir, is Hamas holding up their end of the deal, sir? And your message to the people of Argentina, please.
Then from here, they're gonna go to the Oval Office right now in just a few minutes. Two ruggers in one place. For those who don't know, guys, the president of Argentina, there was Libra. Who remembers Libra, guys? That happened at the beginning of the year. Sometime at the beginning of the year. That was crazy, too. Bunch of cryptos, you know? This is gonna change to the Oval Office in just a moment right now. Okay. Here we have the White House. Okay. This one is cooked. And here it is. Nope. And here it is. Okay. We are going to go to the White House because they're already live. There it is. I'm going to bring you the other one because, as you know, this one really has poor audio quality. I'm always trying to find the places, guys. Always trying to find the places. So very happy to have you here, guys. We had Powell. I'm going to have Trump. Not much happened, during Powell, but getting ready. Prices really didn't change much, although we know that many bullish things are coming ahead for crypto. Many, many, many bullish things are coming ahead for crypto. Perfect. So this one is ready. And go ahead and take a look at this. AP is getting ready for that. They just closed that one. Okay. At least he didn't pull money in front of that camera. You remember that when media was up, bro. Welcome. Getting ready for this conversation. It's coming in at any time right now. Brad Garlic House runs out of the bushes. Let Brad speak. Can you please talk about how people get rich with XRP? Well, with any other crypto, including XRP. Holding the line until, the real assets explode and they show the world what they truly are. Nobody knows them. Only a few millions, but it's not enough. And crypto is truly receptive of what's going on with tariffs and, monetary policy, fiscal policy, geopolitical issues, so much that it's obviously not attractive for a lot of big investors to join and pitch in. Post very good. We have Fox 2. We got Fox 2. That's nice. Coming in soon. Fox. Okay, we have perfect. Let's do the White House here. I really like on Twitter, on X. Perfect. Oh, it went offline. Good. Okay. Let's do this. And let's go to AP here too. Because AP always has the behind the scenes. Sometimes. No, that might be. It closed that one. Yep. All right. We're ready. Acceler seems like a project with real potential. We had a tweet and a little clip on Acceler too. Yes, I noticed that Awesome Austin is also talking a lot about it. So yeah, it's more projects coming in. They're just trying to make money. They're trying to bring utility to it. They're trying to give something to altcoin holders who don't want to buy Bitcoin. You're just trying to make ends meet and provide real utility in a market that is not helping a lot, those builders, but the ones that are good are going to survive. I've noticed that one. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. It's crazy, how there's obviously a lot of people trying to make money in this market, but by holding the line, sometimes it's not as easy. But that's what we're here, you know? Chilling and relaxing. That's the way it's supposed to be. Nothing burger with cheese is my favorite. God, my baby's ready. We got almost 3,000 votes and a burger with cheese. Guys, next time we have a really big live, I'm going to get a beautiful burger with cheese just for you guys from Five Guys or something like that. I'm going to have a nice thumbnail. I got the burger with cheese, guys. Why is that? Well, because we do this every single day, and it's sometimes the reasons why we pump and we see major green are odd and don't make sense much. The reasons why we drop and we dump, there are plenty of them, right? Because they always like to, you know, close the positions, take profits. It just always happens. Always happens. Right now, Milei is taking like 1 million pictures. This guy is a big Trump fan. Big Trump fan. Argentina. There it is. There it is. I knew it. All right. We got the AP news. We're just always early on this one. This one is where you see the more and the higher audio, the volume. So that's why I like it. Trump and Milei to meet in cabinet room. Really nice. Very cool. They got a nice stream. By the way, fam, I'm going to Washington in November. Going to Washington just to chill and relax and meet people. I'm going to try to go to the White House. I'm not kidding. I'm actually going. So should I try and bring an XRP and say, hey, sir, don't forget about us. And maybe even a crow. Cyberhawk, what's up, buddy? Because after the conversation, there's always some Q&A, and right now there's a few things that we want to hear about. We want to hear about, you know, some comments, especially China. And I don't know if you noticed, but the first question they made was, is Hamas keeping the promise, right? Peace. Why? Because just earlier today, I heard that they were still, you know, unaliving people. So absolutely crazy what's going on in the world right now. Oscar, you should bring one subscriber with you to the White House. Boost your financial journey. Thank you, TJ. Cyberhawk, of course. Yes. There's always because we're in the business of knowing the why. Like if you want to hold XRP and buy crypto and go to bed for 10 weeks, wake up, chances are the price is going to be higher when you wake up, or not, because you are waking up after the pump. So we're always trying to identify all the things that matter to our bags. And well, for sure, a lot of people have questions, right? And this is a business that this whole thing, you know, the finance and stocks and crypto, it was so hot during the pandemic because people were inside, they couldn't get out, they had money, they had stimulus money. They just didn't know what to do with money. They couldn't buy alcohol. They couldn't go out and party and relax. All they had to do is buy meme coins and stocks. And, that's how other industries also popped off, if you know what I mean, with other industries. So now that everything's open, it's been 5 years. As we are approaching an altcoin season, right? We need Bitcoin dominance to drop. We need Ethereum to break 5,000. We need Bitcoin to also break higher. We're not seeing that yet, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, guys. So when we have a chance, that's always a good time to see my awesome admins, my subscribers, my members, and just to be live, right? And we've been live for almost 2 hours, so this is going to be our last event. Trump has everything to do with crypto. That's what we have witnessed. Very crazy, huh? Go to bed for 10 weeks. Challenge accepted. Bro, that sounds so good, right? Sleep a lot. It helps. It helps, honestly. Perfect. People are coming in. Still getting ready here. Nice weeks. I see that too. Yep. Shouldn't be waiting for much longer. There they are. Let's hear it.
Our friends. We'll find out.
Your message to the people of Argentina, please.
We love them. We'll be there for them. And they have a great leader. They have a very great leader. Thank you.
That was Milei. That was Milei talking with Trump. And now we're going to be hearing the back and forth in just a moment. A lot that he has to do today. What is this? Grayscale, Coindesk, Crypto 5, ETF, XRP, Bitcoin, Solana, Cardano. This is the first multi-asset crypto ETP listed in the United States. Only 5% XRP, 74% Bitcoin, 16% XRP. Cool. Those baskets, right? Coming in with a lot of punch. Oh, yeah. There was a conversation too about the government shutdown. Just so you know, there's so many things going on in Washington today. Let's listen up a little bit.
And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. and 2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that. And they would send a $500 million.
If you're asking why the government shutdown is still on after about 14 days or so, Speaker Mike Johnson just gave you a list, right? Yes, guys, we're still under a government shutdown, right? We're still under a government shutdown. Some people are not getting paid. I was hearing yesterday that traffic controllers, are asking for sick leave because they don't want to work because they haven't gotten paid, right? And imagine going to work for weeks and not getting paid. It's not fun. It's life. It makes no sense. But that's what's going on. And Democrats, Republicans, guys, yeah, it is what it is. But I need to tell you, right? Because that's the reality of what people are living right now. That's a reality. Taking a little bit longer than expected. Usually it's kind of fast, but they're either taking a bunch of pictures or they're, I don't know what they're doing. Okay. More comments about Mike Johnson and the Democrat shutdown, he says.
Look, my understanding of this is they have every right to move the funds around, duly appropriated dollars from Congress to the Department of Defense. There were some R&D accounts that had not been spent, and that's my understanding is that's the money that's being used to pay the troops right now. If the Democrats want to go to court and challenge troops being paid, bring it, okay? I'm grateful for a commander-in-chief who understands the priorities of the country, the necessity of national defense, and the urgency that we all feel and have voted for 8 times. Republicans have voted in Congress 8 times now between House and Senate to fund the troops and pay federal workers in all these essential jobs and agencies because we understand the necessity of that. Meanwhile, the Democrats voted 8 times to block their paychecks. I'm grateful we have a president who is willing to step up and do the right thing. Thank you all so much.
There you have it. Drop a like, everybody. Consider subscribing to the channel and welcome. Go ahead and vote in the poll that we have right now. We're moments away from hearing from the President Donald J. Trump and also Milei, President of Argentina. And I'm watching Fox right now live too, and they're waiting to. Those beautiful, awesome American flags. I see one. Remember, those are the ones installed and put up by Trump in his administration. So, yeah. Oh, they're almost there. I'm already seeing. Let me show you. There's a TV. So they're trying to get inside the room right now. So coming in is coming in. Coming in is coming in. Soon. Just maybe seconds away from getting signal right now. But it's crazy, I mean, it's good to hear also from Speaker Mike Johnson 8 times. 8 times and not getting this shutdown resolved. And I know you guys have comments on that. It is what it is. When is the government gonna reopen, David? I know, right? It's true. Thank you, Saul Crypto. Very happy to see you, buddy, and welcome. Very much welcome to our conversation here. We're keeping you in the know with the latest on every single front. Literally talking about everything. Even CC right now is responding. Talk is cheap. 283 million compensation on Binance, 45 million recovery airdrop on BNB chain, another 400 million recovery airdrop on Binance. Protect users. There's a friend that you know very well called Levi. He is going after Binance hard, bro. Boycott Binance. Don't stop withdrawing from Binance. Selling BNB. Binance time is over. move your assets from Binance. It's getting a lot of views, and I think a lot of people are excited to see someone. There you go. So FYI. Wait. That is not.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to have
Oh,
the leader
yeah,
of
Got
Argentina,
confused.
a place that I love, I've been to, and one of the most beautiful places in the world, President. And I really want to thank you very much. He's MAGA all the way. It's Make Argentina Great Again. I heard about him when he was campaigning, and even before his campaign. He's a great economist, and he was saying a lot of very correct things, and he was very much in a conservative mode. And I heard all about you as you were running, and even before you were running, because as a tremendously talented economist, you were getting a lot of good write-ups, and I appreciated that. But he was Make Argentina Great Again. It worked. I actually sent him some hats for his early part of the campaign, and then he called me. He wanted a lot more, and I said, "When does it stop? When will it stop?" And it stopped with him winning, and he's become very popular, and he's on the verge of a breakthrough. I think he's really on the verge of tremendous economic success, and I know that Scott Bessent is helping, and our great Scott is doing a job, and he feels very strongly about it. And Scott, do you want to say just a couple of words about that, please?
Yes, sir. The president is fighting 100 years of bad economic history and policy, and is
Both presidents.
Both.
We're fighting bad. I thought he was talking about the U.S. president when he said.
And there's a midterm election coming up. We think he's going to do quite well, and then continue his reform agenda. Mr. President, as you said, President Obama had a big opportunity during his term, which he wasted. Many governments in Latin America went center-right, and the U.S. ignored them. We are not going to ignore our allies. It is economic strength. We're using our economic strength to create peace, just as you've done all over the world. And it is much better to form an economic bridge with our allies, people who want to do the right thing, than have to have shoot at narco gunboats. We think that this is an opportunity for the Argentinian people, and that President Milei is the one to do it. He's got a great cabinet. He's got a great team who we've worked with over the past weeks.
And the election is coming up very soon, and it's a very big election being watched by the world, because he's done an incredible job. But with that comes some pain, and they have some pain, and now they're coming out of it. I think the victory is very important. Your poll numbers, I hear, are pretty good, but I think they'll be better after this. And, you know, our approvals are somewhat subject to who wins the election, because if a socialist, or in the case of New York City, a communist wins, you feel a lot differently about making an investment. I think, Scott, you'd feel that if somebody that had no chance, in other words, if somebody wins and has no chance of ever having a great economy because of that philosophy, you would put a halt to what we're doing.
Yes, sir, and we're confident that President Milei is going to do well. We've been criticized by a couple of American Peronists, like Senator Warren. And you know, she and
That's a compliment.
Yeah.
She has no idea what she's doing. She's a nasty, horrible senator. Go ahead.
Oh, boy.
Other than that, I like her very much.
Yeah, and she and her protege in New York, Mandami, who I don't even think he's a Peronist. I think he's more the communist Chauvinismo. So we stand with the president and what he stands for, and the hope for the Argentinian people. And President Trump, just like you, he carries the young people. So it's hope for the future. The Argentines have made the decision to shake off 100 years of bad policy. They went from one of the richest countries in the world to a ton of debt. And I think that with the bridge the U.S. is giving them and the strong policies, that Argentina can be great again.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead, please.
Muchísimas gracias por esta recepción. Me siento muy honrado, muy especialmente en este momento en el que, digamos, gracias al gran liderazgo suyo, presidente Trump ha logrado la paz en Medio Oriente. No solo este gran logro que ha sido alcanzar la paz en Medio Oriente, sino lograr el retorno de los 20 rehenes vivos. Además, quiero también felicitar por esa labor y por entender, digamos, la amenaza que es el socialismo del siglo XXI en todo el mundo, y en especial en América Latina, la labor de Marco Rubio. Y también quiero agradecer profundamente el enorme trabajo que ha hecho el secretario Bessent, digamos, para ayudar a superar este problema de iliquidez que tenía Argentina como consecuencia, digamos, de los ataques políticos que hemos sufrido por nuestros opositores que no quieren que Argentina vuelva a abrazar las ideas de la libertad y que quieran volver a abrazar ideas perimidas, fracasadas, que en el fondo no son ni más ni menos que caminos que conducen al socialismo. Así es que, en primer lugar, muchas gracias por recibirme, muchas gracias por lo que están haciendo por el mundo libre y muchas gracias al secretario Bessent por la enorme tarea que ha llevado a cabo y que, digamos, nos permite tener una ruta para poder transitar tranquilos y hacer lo que los argentinos de bien necesitan, y que creo que va a ser un buen caso para mostrar al mundo que las ideas de la libertad funcionan y generan prosperidad. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have a interpreter that wants to, you all either have that, has everyone understood? Because I think you made a very important, profound statement, actually. But we could have it interpreted if you want. Does anybody want it interpreted? Would you like
The
that?
media.
Would you like it? Can the interpreter speak what, do we have somebody set up for that? You want?
It's actually simultaneous, so if the president would like to repeat his statement, we can do it.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll leave it that way. So it's an honor to have you here. And I just want to tell you that your career has been an amazing one, and it's going to continue with the election. You're going to win the election. We're going to endorse you. I'm going to endorse you today, fully endorse you. And, people in Argentina like me. A lot of people like me. I'm even surprised myself. But we had a great week. We had a great weekend. We had a great period of time in the Middle East. It was very comprehensive. It went very rapidly, and I think it's going to lead to something that's going to be unrecognizable, certainly for the Middle East. What's taken place in the last few days, people can't believe it. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen the love and the spirit. And I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of deals. I've done a lot of political deals where countries come into line or whatever, but I've never seen anything like this, the level of love. And it has to do with the mystique of the Middle East, I think, because if I did other countries, I did 7 other settlements of wars, complete settlements of wars, and it was very well received. But this is something I've never seen anything like it. The media covered it very fairly, and even the fake news, of which we have a lot, they actually covered it fairly for a change. And I appreciated that. We have to get back to that. It's so important. But I just want to say it's a pleasure to be with you, and we're going to have lunch, and we'll take a couple of questions from the news, and I'm sure they'll be extremely non-hostile and friendly. Like JD went through a very friendly interview with George Slobodanopoulos, who was nice enough to pay me $16 million the last time we came. He had to pay $16 million to me, which was good. It was worth having somebody lie. If you get $16 million, that's good. But JD had a very nasty person interviewing him, and we can't let that happen. Just as inappropriate to cut off a highly respected vice president of the United States mid-sentence. I guess it's one way to win an argument. That was the only way he was going to win the argument. So it was pretty inappropriate, I want to tell you that. So thank you very much. Do you have something there?
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Sí. Quería darle.
I'll get it. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
And when he did this letter, Mr. President, your settlement in the Middle East wasn't done. So we have to do a new letter
Let's do that.
to include that, because this is a very important.
You'll have to add one extra sentence.
Exactly.
That's great. Thank you very much. This is a great, such a beautiful statement. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Okay.
Mr. President, how is this?
Why don't we talk about Argentina first? And
Yeah.
Go ahead. How is Argentina going?
Are you worried about the influence of China in Argentina? Sorry.
Go ahead.
How is this Argentina rescue package America first? And is this rescue package meant to help President Milei's party in the coming election?
No, it's helped. It's really meant to help a good financial philosophy where Argentina can, after 20 years of disaster, because it was very successful at one point, and it can be again, like Venezuela. Venezuela was very, very successful, and now it's a dictatorship. So when we can help our neighbors, we're making tremendous progress in South America. South America, Marco was telling me, he's like our great expert here. He really knows it. You were telling me that so many of the countries are coming our way. And we had a few years ago, when I just came back, so I've been here now almost 9 months, but when I just came in, I was amazed to see how poorly we've done. We lost so many, and one of them was Argentina, would be lost if he wasn't there. And I think he will be there because the people recognize he's done an amazing job. He took over a real mess. So did I take over a mess. I took over a mess by, the Biden group. And Obama he started it, I'll tell you. Barack Hussein Obama started it. Could you give a couple of words on South America? You were telling me so well yesterday how well we're doing. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, we have now 8 or 9, 10 countries, Argentina being foremost among them, that have aligned with the United States on issue after issue in international community events all over the world. They're, in fact, these great allies like Argentina, but I can go into others, Costa Rica, I don't want to leave anybody out, El Salvador, but I think one of the more promising developments is later this month, there'll be an election in Bolivia. After 25, 30 years of anti-American hostile government, both of the candidates running in that election and the runoff election want strong, better relations with the United States and another transformative opportunity there. But so I think this is important. This is our hemisphere. It's where we live. And having strong neighbors such as this.
And great progress has been made, really.
And we'll make more. Absolutely.
Over the last 9 months. Really over the last 9 months. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, from Argentina, Buenos Aires, do you imagine soon a free trade agreement with Argentina? Could it be possible soon?
Yeah, it will be. Well, we're going to discuss some of it today. But no, we want to help Argentina. And we want to always help ourselves. But we want to help Argentina. And one of the ways we can do, they have great product. And we used to do a lot of trade, and then if you look at what the Democrats, well, they didn't know. They didn't know. Honestly, they didn't know what they were doing. But a lot of that trade disappeared, and they have great product. So we will be trading with Argentina, and it'll be helpful to them, and it's helpful. It's good for us also.
Mr. President, was China trying to draw a wedge between the U.S. and Argentina by buying soybeans from Argentina and not U.S. farmers?
I would say so.
And China on the port fees.
China
they've
likes to
increased
draw
port fees on
wedges.
U.S. ships too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess that's natural. It's China, and it's natural, but it's not gonna mean anything in the end.
Mr. President, from Argentina, should Argentina end the China swap and close the space base in Neuquén?
I don't think you should be doing business much with. You can do some trade, but you certainly shouldn't be doing beyond that. Certainly shouldn't be doing anything having to do with the military with China. And if that's what's happening, I'd be very upset about that, yeah.
And what about
You
the swap?
understand this guy, right?
Mr. President,
You do understand.
Mr. President, what about the swaps? Because it's so important for Argentina, the swaps.
Go ahead.
The central bank.
The American assistance is not predicated on the swap with China being closed. Any reporting to that effect is incorrect.
But you said that Argentina has to export China from your business or from your agenda, and the swap is so important for Argentina.
No, I was referring more to ports, military bases, observation facilities that have been created in Argentina.
Than the swap? More than the swap?
More than the swap.
He was referring to that. Yeah, behind you, please.
Yes, President, for Argentina, what's the benefit for United States in helping this way Argentina?
Just helping a great philosophy take over a great country. Argentina is one of the most beautiful countries that I've ever seen. And we want to see it succeed. Very simple. I mean, we don't have to do it. It's not going to make a big difference for our country, but it will in terms of South America. If Argentina does well, you're going to have others following, and a lot of others are following. You have countries in South America that 2 years ago would have never even been thought of to go as democracies or as just countries that want to do fair and balanced trading. And now you mentioned Bolivia, but there are numerous other countries that are coming our way. And Brazil, as you know, I had a very good conversation with the president. I met him at the United Nations before I went up to speak, and then I found that I didn't have a speech because I had no teleprompter. They turned off my teleprompter purposely. They made it impossible for me. But it didn't silence me. I spoke without, and it was a good speech. I mean, it was a good speech. But no, think of that. You go into the United Nations, I'm speaking in front of 158 leaders and the whole world. And I look at my teleprompter and it's dead. They killed my teleprompter. They wouldn't let the man that operated into the booth. Can you believe that?
You don't have any specific interest in economic terms for the state?
I do have. No, I want to see it succeed. I think it's going to be great, and we will benefit also. But it's not that big a benefit because it's not that big a country, but it's a very important country, and it's a country that can be very successful. There are some countries that will never be successful. This is a country that has great potential if it has the right leadership, and you have the right leadership with this man right here. Okay?
Mr. President, would you support dollarization?
I would say that I'll leave that up to my my economic people, but I like the dollar. I'm very strong on the dollar. And anybody who wants to deal in dollars, they have an advantage over people that aren't. But for the most part, we're keeping it that way. I think if Biden would have, that group would have gotten elected, meaning Kamala, you wouldn't have the dollar as your currency anymore. You wouldn't have a world domination by the dollar if I didn't win this election. And now the domination, like BRICS. I told anybody who wants to be in BRICS, that's fine, but we're going to put tariffs on your nation. Everybody dropped out. They're all dropping out of BRICS. BRICS was an attack on the dollar. And I said, you want to play that game, I'm going to put tariffs on all of your product coming into the U.S. They said, like I said, we're dropping out of BRICS. And BRICS is like, they don't even talk about it anymore. Scott, you want to add to that, please?
We're very happy with the current currency arrangement.
Mr. President,
Your ABC fake news.
First of all,
I
congratulations.
don't take questions from ABC fake news after what you did with Stephanopoulos to the Vice President of the United States. I don't take questions from ABC fake news. Brian, go ahead.
Yes, sir. First of all, congratulations on achieving peace. You are indeed the peacemaker. On a lighter...
Did you ever think I was going to be called a peacemaker?
Actually, I did. I saw some of the actions you were doing.
Go ahead.
But on a lighter note, Alyssa Farah, she is one of the hosts on ABC's show The View. She said a while back, I'll quote, "If Trump gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on this show and say thank you for doing it." Your response?
Well, did she put the hat on?
Well, she hasn't got the hat yet.
Who is it? Which one?
Alyssa Farah.
Well, she used to work for me. So she used to work here. I'll tell you about Alyssa. She worked here. She gave me the most beautiful letter when, the administration, the time came up, the election was rigged, I left. She gave me the most beautiful letter you've ever seen. I was a great president. What a great job. Some of the letters have been quoted. This is Alyssa, who I never thought was very outstanding. I figured she would not make it. And she didn't have a big role here either. And then we had January 6th, And she left after that or before that, but she gave me the most beautiful letters. And then even months after she left, and while we weren't here any longer, she sent another letter, glowing letter, beautiful letter. And then she got hired by The View, and they gave her a couple of bucks, and she changed her view very quickly. I never thought she'd make it. Never thought she had what it took in any way. You know what that means. But she's on The View. But it just shows what a fraud The View is, because this woman gave me letters and statements. She said I was the greatest president in her lifetime. Now, she's not that old, so I didn't consider it a great compliment, but I've had better.
Can we send her a hat?
Well, recently I've had the greatest president of them all. I like that much better.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Does that include Washington and Lincoln? Yes, sir, it does. I said, I like that person. So I think she's a total, I think she's a joke.
Mr. President, on Gaza, how long will it take Hamas to disarm, and can you guarantee that is going to happen?
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games, okay? Now, we did something monumental. We got the hostages back. That was the first thing we had to do. Above all else, get the hostages back. Now, they misrepresented because we were told they had 26, 24 of dead hostages, if we can use those terms. And it seems as though they don't have that because we're talking about a much lesser number. But that's a very tough subject. I want them back. That's what they said. I want them back. Also, they said they were going to disarm. And initially speaking, they needed, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out. And they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. We had a couple of very bad gangs. It's no different than other countries. Like Venezuela sent their gangs into us, and we took care of those gangs. We have Washington, D.C. is one of the safest cities in the country. It was one of the worst cities in the country if you go back just a little while ago, right? Now it's safe. You can walk to work. Isn't it nice? But we have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes. You say
because
quickly.
everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm, or we will disarm them. Got it? Okay.
What is the deadline you're going to put on that? You say quickly, sir. Sir, you said quickly, but what is the deadline you're going to put on that before you take action?
A reasonable period of time. Pretty quickly.
Mr.
A reasonable period of time.
Congratulations on the peace you achieved in the Middle East, first of all.
Thank you very much.
And my question is regarding Argentina. Does continue?
Are you from Argentina?
I'm from Argentina, yes.
I like the Argentina. I like them much better than ABC. Than ABC fake news.
Me too, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Does continued U.S. support for Argentina depend on the results of the upcoming legislative elections and the ability of the government to pass long-lasting reforms through Congress?
Well, I think if they don't do that, we're not going to be around very long. Scott, can you handle that one, please?
We're confident that the president's party will and the coalition will do well in the election, and this aid is predicated on robust policies, and going back to the failed Peronist policies would cause a U.S. rethink.
Thank you very much.
It's a great question. It's a little like New York. You're reading in Argentina about New York. We have a problem. We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing. Practically, he's never worked a day in his life. And he sort of caught on, right? And I'm not going to send a lot of money to New York. I don't have to. The money comes all through the White House. And if they're going to be sending us stupid policies, communist policies, which is proven for thousands of years doesn't work. We don't have to prove it again. We're not going to ruin one of our great cities because we'll make that great. We will clean up the crime in about 30 days. Took 12 days to do Washington, D.C., so New York is bigger. And Chicago, we've already made a lot of progress despite fighting from the government, but Chicago's doing great. Memphis is doing really great. You know, we have great support there from the political leaders. They said, please come in and clean up crime. And we love it. We've in 1 week, Memphis is so good. It's so much better. We'll have it within a month. We'll have that into a safe city again. And all of these cities, we want to clean them up. We don't like that opposition. But if somebody's going to be a communist mayor of New York, it's a fluke if he gets in. There are a lot of failed people that he's running against. I mean, we have failed, you have inferior candidates or something, because it's impossible to think that New York City can have a communist mayor. He's a communist. He's not a socialist, by the way. There's a big difference. He's a communist. He's down and dirty. He's a communist. He hates police. He wants to get rid of all police. I mean, how can a policeman? He hates Jewish people, and yet he's got Jewish people supporting. He hates Jewish people. So it comes through the White House. The funding for New York and for every place comes through the White House. And I'm very generous, and I was always very generous with New York, even when you had opposition there, but I was always very generous. But I wouldn't be generous to a communist, a guy that's going to take the money and throw it out the window, because you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're not going to let somebody get into office and squander the taxpayer money from this country. We're not going to let it happen. So it's a little bit like that with, if you take a look at Argentina, if the president doesn't win, I know the person that he'd be running against, I believe, probably, we probably have the person. A person is extremely far left and a philosophy that got Argentina into this problem in the first place. So we would not be generous with Argentina if that happened. If he loses, we are not going to be generous with Argentina.
Mr. President, you talk about Argentina and important in the Latin American. What is your plan for Venezuela? But is the terrorism, the narco-terrorism in the President Maduro? What is your plan about it?
Venezuela's done a couple of things very badly. Number one, we get drugs and all of that. But we get something in a way worse, because they're a big purveyor of drugs, but we have worse. What they do very well is they send their criminals into the United States, and they send Tren de Aragua, that you know very well. You're from Venezuela, I assume. And they send them in by the thousands, literally. And these are the worst of all. And they empty their prisons into the United States. They empty their mental institutions into the United States. And because we had a president who's low IQ, he didn't realize what was going on. And the people that are high IQ that surround him, but they happen to be lunatics, radical left, they're highly intelligent, radical left lunatics, okay? So in a way, that's worse than having a guy like Biden. But they ran the show. You heard about the AutoPen. The person that really operated the AutoPen, but it was really the people that told the person that operated the AutoPen what to do. Those are the people that really were president, okay? So we're not going to stand for it in this country. And by the way, that AutoPen thing is under serious investigation. Just this, I don't think you care, because you're from Argentina, you couldn't care less about that. But I just want to say, because I do the weave, you know, the weave, cover a lot of different subjects. But the people that are involved in that AutoPen scam, because he barely signed anything. I mean, this guy, I don't know how you can be president. He barely signed it. But the only thing we can find for sure is that he signed Hunter's pardon, his pardon. Hunter's pardon, I like that. That's a good combination. So we're going to work very much with the president. We think he's going to win. He should win. And if he does win, we're going to be very helpful. And if he doesn't win, we're not going to waste our time, because you have somebody whose philosophy has no chance of making Argentina great again.
What's your advice for
Steve, go ahead, Steve.
What's your advice for
Just to check something, you said Hamas assured you that they would disarm. Was that a direct conversation or through Mr. Witkoff or
through my people?
Okay.
At the highest level.
What's your advice?
And it was meant for.
What's your advice for President Milei and Argentina as a political leader?
My advice is to hold strong to his principles, because he's right, and he's proving that he was right. He's got one problem. He's got people that are giving him tremendously bad press, even though they know it's wrong. He's got to hold true to his principles, because he's going to win. He's going to win. He's doing the right thing. Everybody knows he's doing the right thing, but you have a radical left sick culture that's a very dangerous group of people, and they're trying to make him look bad. I believe he's going to win out.
And we're going to do right over with China in his house.
China?
The Chinese.
Well, you have to be careful with China. Look, everybody deals with China. They have to deal with us too. We have to be careful with China. Look, I have a great relationship with President Xi, but sometimes it gets testy because China likes to take advantage of people, and they can't take advantage of us. But we have a fair relationship with China, and I think it'll be fine. And if it's not, that's okay too. You have to do and go where the punches are thrown. You got to put up the blocks. We have a lot of punches being thrown, and we've been very successful. Look, we have the most success. I think we're the most successful we've ever been as a country. We have now close. I've been saying 17. We have, I think, close to or maybe even exceeding $18 trillion going to be invested in the United States. That's more money than ever invested in any country before. Even countries with much bigger populations like India or like China. Nobody's ever had $18 trillion invested in the country. We have, and that's because of November 5th election, because I won. Oh, if she won, you'd be negative. You'd have people getting out of the country. This country would have been in a major depression. If she won, we would have been 1929. They'd like to see that anyway. That's why they keep the government laws. They have a shutdown based on nonsense. They want to give away 1.5, think of it, they want to give away $1.5 trillion to people that come into the country illegally. And as you know, the borders now are closed. But when they hear that they get the greatest health care package in the world and they have no money, but they're living okay in another country, they head up and they start forming caravans and they try and come into our country. But the big problem is they want to give health care to people that should not get health care. They want to give health care to illegal immigrants by the millions. Look at Gavin Newsom, what he's done. He's ruined California. He gives health care to anybody. And I guess they do it for votes. I actually think it's bad politics, but I guess they do it for votes. So I'm with this man because his philosophy is correct. And he may win and he may not win, but I think he's going to win. And if he wins, we're staying with him. And if he doesn't win, we're gone.
How can Argentina can help to the peace process, to the Middle East peace process?
They can help by doing well. If Argentina does well, that's helpful because they know we help Argentina. So if Argentina is successful, that's great because they view us as somebody that helped Argentina and they did well, and the United States maybe will help them and they're going to do well. So the success of Argentina would be a great feather in the cap of the USA because we're helping them. Right? You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, behind you. Behind you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week you said that NATO should consider expelling Spain.
What?
You said that NATO should consider expelling Spain. Would you support that?
What is spelling Spain?
NATO spelling Spain.
Oh. I'm very unhappy with Spain.
Boom.
They're the only country that didn't raise up their number to 5%. Every other country in NATO raised up to 5%. And Spain is doing very well off our backs. So I'm not happy with Spain. Spain gets protection, and they know, look, they're sort of in the semi-middle of it, so they're going to get protected automatically. Even if you don't want to protect them, you're protecting them because of the way they're located. And I think what Spain did is a very bad thing for NATO. I think it's very unfair to NATO. It wouldn't matter if you said you're not going to protect them because they're pretty much protected. What are you going to do? Go through the other countries and let's go attack Spain, right? So I think what they did is not nice. I think it's very disrespectful to NATO. In fact, I was thinking about giving them trade punishment through tariffs because of what they did. And I may do that. I think unbelievably disrespectful. Spain, the only one out of all the countries in NATO, the only one that said that is Spain. And I think I think they should be punished for that. Yes. I do.
Oh boy, that's going to be a headline.
You have the money to pay the troops on October
I
15th. Okay.
I actually have a man who is a very wealthy person. You'll know that when I tell you this. who called, a donor, a great gentleman, and he said, if there's any money necessary, shortfall, for the paying of the troops, then I will pay it, meaning he will pay it. How about that? I said, look, we're not going to need it. We're going to take care of our troops, but this was a position that's being forced upon us by Democrats, and all they have to do is just sign a piece of paper saying we're going to keep it going the way it is. You know, there's nothing. It's not like it shouldn't even be an argument. They've signed it many times before. I don't want to bore you with the fact that Schumer said 100 times you should never close up government, but Schumer's a weakened politician. I mean, he's going to finish his career as a failed politician. He's a failed politician. He's allowed the radical left to take over the Democrat Party. So if they write books about that, if they write books about him, they're going to have to say that his career ended by allowing the radical left to take over the party. I mean, I won an election in a landslide because people are not into the radical left, and the Democrat Party is. People didn't want to see men playing in women's sports. They didn't want to see transgender for everybody. They didn't want to see all of the different things that they do that's so crazy. Open borders. I mean, the worst thing that he did to us, it's not inflation, because we fixed inflation. Prices are way down. I don't know if you saw that gasoline went to 58 just now. Did you see what's going on with gasoline?
We track that.
No, $58 a barrel.
Yeah, we track that.
Nobody can believe it. I'm very proud of that. You know why? Because we're pumping like we've never pumped before. Because if you get the gas price down, everything else comes down. It's very simple. And he went away from my policies, and you had the greatest inflation. The last administration had the greatest inflation in the history of our country. And now, as you know, groceries are down. It's all down.
But on the shutdown, are you settling in for
He
a long?
said
Is this
it.
going to be a long term? Are we looking
It's up
months?
to them. All they have to do is just vote to extend. We don't need it. We're not saying we want money. We don't. All we need is a right to extend. They want a right to extend, but they want $1.5 trillion so they can give it away to illegal immigrants, the people that are invading your cities. And many of these people, for whatever reason, I mean, I understood this. I called it a long time ago. These countries are run by people I know. Friends of mine, like I know this gentleman. I hope you haven't sent, he probably did too, why not? They send up their worst people. They send up people that are criminals, they send up people from jails. And at best, the best ones they send up are people that don't work very hard and that are on a social form of welfare. And they're sending those people into the United States. I don't blame them, I'm angry at them, but I don't blame them. But I'm really angry at Biden and Kamala and that group of lunatics for allowing it to happen, because it's the hardest thing. Now, you know, we're sending them out. It's incredible the job that Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group is doing. But we shouldn't have to be doing that. We're doing a lot of work on getting people out of here. Tren de Aragua has caused tremendous damage, and our soldiers are great. You know, our soldiers are now based on merit. They're not based on woke, because we won the case in the Supreme Court, which was the bravest case. I have such respect for the Supreme Court because of what they did with merit, because our country was built on merit. Countries are destroyed on woke. You know, I made a statement, and I hated to make it because it sounded bad, but everything turns to you know what when it goes woke. You remember the term. I don't like to use it because you might have some children listening, but it turns bad. And no, we have the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. That's why he's here. That's why every other country wants to meet here too. But we only have so many hours in the day and days in the week. But we get the hottest country. Think of it. We were a dead country a year and a half ago. And now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's pretty good. Did a good job. Okay, any other questions?
Would you like to visit Argentina? Would you like to visit Argentina soon? There is an invitation for that.
What does that mean?
Do you like to visit Argentina soon?
I do. I would love to. I'm just a little busy. I would love to. I'd love to go to Argentina. I'd like to be like Biden. I'd like to go to the beach. You know, my legs are not quite as thin as his. My legs are slightly heavier. My arms are slightly larger. My body is a little bit larger than his.
What?
I'm not sure it would be appreciated on the beach, but I'm not going to take a chance. You won't see me in a bathing suit.
Oh,
You
boy.
won't see in a bathing suit sitting on a beach in Argentina, falling down, not being able to lift a 3-ounce chair, meant for old people to lift, and he couldn't lift it, so we had a problem. He spent too much time on a beach. Somebody told him that he looked good in a bathing suit. And you'd see this guy on the beach all the time. I never quite understood it. Steve, go ahead.
Could you preview your meeting with Ukraine President Zelensky on Friday? You expect to talk about weapons? Is there going to be a package?
Interesting meeting going on. Look, I'm very disappointed because Vladimir and I had a very good relationship. Probably still do.
Russia.
I don't know why he continues with this war. This war has been so bad for him. He's going into 4 years of a war that he should have won that war in 1 week. He's now going to soon be into his 4th year. He's lost 1.5 million soldiers, probably close. Certainly in terms of wounded and no legs and no arms and all the things that happen in horrible wars. It's a horrible war. That's the biggest thing that's happened since World War II in terms of death. It's bigger than any of them. I settled 8 of them. The biggest is that in terms of death. Incredible. I think India, Pakistan had great potential too. We did a great job of that one, but he's got to really settle this war. And you know they have long lines waiting for gasoline in Russia right now, right? They have long lines. Who thought that was going to happen? And all of a sudden his economy is going to collapse. And I'd like to see him do well. I mean, I had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin, but he just doesn't want to end that war. And I think it's making him look very bad. He could end it. He could end it quickly. And I have to tell you, I give credit because who would think that Ukraine could have fought Russia for 4 years to essentially a standstill? Now, there has been some early, before they knew what the hell was happening, because it happened quick. Biden should have never let that happen. That's a war that should have never happened, but it did. But it's not making Russia look good, I will tell you that.
Tomahawks in Ukraine?
We'll be talking about Ukraine, yeah. I mean, I have the president coming in on Friday.
Friday.
I know what he has to say. He wants weapons. He would like to have tomahawks. Everyone else wants tomahawks. And we have a lot of tomahawks. Tomahawk is a... Do you need any tomahawks in Argentina?
You can cross Moscow tomahawks.
You need them for your opposition, I guess, because see, in this country, they'd use tomahawks for the opposition. I don't do that. I'm much nicer. The Democrats would use them if they had the chance. They're sick people. Go ahead.
President, are you worried that this plan with Argentina can fail?
Anything can fail. Anything can fail. You never know. That's why I say Putin should do something about the war, because so far, I mean, it's turned out to be very bad for him. But anything can, so this plan can fail, sure it can fail, but it's got a better chance, I would say, Scott, it's got a better chance of success than failure. And if it's successful, it's an unbelievable success. It can transform your country into greatness. It's got a great chance. We'd like to give it a chance. Anything can fail, but we'd like to give it a chance. And we think, because he's made so much progress, I mean, the work that he's done over the last 4 years is incredible. And it would be a shame to lose that progress. He's very close to having a big success.
Mr. President, will you consider removing new restrictions on the press that report at the Pentagon? And have you spoken to Secretary Hegseth about this?
I have, yeah. Well, he's finding, I think I can speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself, but I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our nation. Press is very dishonest. Not you, but the press is very dishonest. You have something to say?
Well, I very much appreciate the question because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic trip of Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
You know, we have an option here, as you know, the press years ago moved into the White House. It used to be across the street. We could move them. You're lucky I'm president, because we could move them very easily across the street. They used to be there. They would have more room. We have a beautiful, nice space. You can sit all by yourselves and have fun. Instead, you walk around the White House talking to anybody that can breathe. And, you know, but I find that when it comes to war, and now our great Department of War, we have some great people over there, I think it bothers me to have soldiers and even, you know, high-ranking generals walking around with you guys on their sleeve, asking them, because they can make a mistake, and a mistake can be tragic. They can do it innocently, too. They can, you know, and they're not press people. They don't really deal with the press, so they're not really necessarily good at it, although I think it's mostly instinctual one way or the other. You're either good at things or you're not. But I could see you being bothered by that. And so you have them in an area, and you treat them fairly, but they're not allowed to go into
much like the
somebody's office and sit with them for 10 hours.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can understand.
Mr. President, Boston had some street takeovers that we saw. Are you going to work with or try and work with the mayor of Boston? And then they have a World Cup. They have several World Cup games. I know Argentina knows about World Cups. They have several World Cup games. Could those games move to cities that do work with you?
We could take them away. I love the people of Boston. I know the games are sold out. But your mayor is not good. They're worse than her. At least she's intelligent. You know, some are extremely low IQ. Those bother me more. She's intelligent, but she's radical left. And they're taking over parts of Boston. That's a pretty big statement, right? We could get them back in about 2 seconds. All she has to do is call us. We'll go in and take them back. But she's afraid to, because she thinks it's bad politically. She could take them back, too. The Boston police are great. I mean, I know them. They love me. She'll never tell them to go after Trump, because they love me and I love them. And I got a tremendous police vote and military vote, you know, and fireman vote, all of them. No, I think she is hurting Boston. The answer is yes. If somebody is doing a bad job, and if I feel there's unsafe conditions, I would call Johnny, the head of FIFA, who's phenomenal, and I would say, let's move it to another location. And he would do that. He wouldn't love to do it, but he'd do it. Very easily he'd do it. And this is the right time to do it. If I thought Boston was doing something that was going to cause safety conditions for the World Cup, I could say the same thing for the Olympics, because, you know, we have events that are in different locations for the Olympics. It's based in LA. If I thought LA was not going to be prepared properly, I would move it to another location if I had to. On that one, I'd probably have to get a different kind of a permission, but we would do that. Gavin Newsom, he's got to get his act together, because had we not gone in at the beginning of my term, had we not gone in with a very strong, powerful force, they would have lost LA. Now, you already lost 25,000 houses to fires. You got a big scar right in the middle of the city. And that should have never happened, because they should have had the water flowing in from the Pacific Northwest. All they had to do is open up the valves. He didn't want to do it. And he didn't want to do it. He says for environmental reasons. I don't believe that. But, you know, for some reason, he didn't want to do it. And lost 25,000. You had no water in the fire pumps. You had no water in the sprinkler systems in the ceilings. There were no houses. Normally the things would go in the. You might not have lost. You might not have lost 2 houses. So if he doesn't play ball, we're going to have to be very tough with him. He's done a bad job. You know, just to finish off on that, so when we went in, we did a phenomenal job. We went in with great force, and that was the end of it. We put it out. We extinguished that fire, which was agitation, and it was a very dangerous position to be in. And we went and did a great job. But the chief, said we could have never done this without President Trump and without the federal government coming in. Okay, that was it. He said that. Now, 2 or 3 weeks later, he said, oh, we could have done it, but he knows he couldn't. The city was going to be taken over if I didn't go in. And you have to remember that. Los Angeles was going to be taken over. And we have it where the chief said it, I believe, numerous times, but that was as it was happening. That was a rough one. That was nasty. And if we saw a situation like that, yeah, we'd be forced to make a move. Boston better clean up their act. That's all I can say. Go ahead. One more question. Yeah, please.
Do you feel any urgency to end the shutdown in the next week, 2 weeks, or would you be fine if this stretches into November and then toward the holidays with folks not getting paid?
Well, you know, shutdown, we've had many, many shutdowns, and this is a shutdown that shouldn't have happened. A group of people brilliantly decided to make it after the election. I said, thank you very much. In other words, give it to Trump instead of Biden. So it shouldn't happen. And likewise, debt ceiling shouldn't have. But the great big, beautiful bill solved the debt ceiling problem for
Is there a point where you would reach out to all parties?
Here's what's happening on the shutdown, though. Honestly, can I put it in plain words for you? And you're a smart guy, so you all understand, but a lot of people don't. The Democrats are getting killed on the shutdown because we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we were opposed to. So we're being able, and they're never going to come back in many cases. So we're being able to do things that we were unable to do before. So we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we wanted to close up or that we never wanted to happen, and now we're closing them up. And we're not going to let them come back. The Democrats are getting killed. And we're going to have a list of them on Friday, closing up some of the most egregious, socialist, semi-communist, probably not full communist, we're saving that for New York, but semi-communist programs, and we're closing them up. We're not closing up Republican programs because we think they work. So the Democrats are getting killed, but they're not telling the people about that. I say it, nobody, well, I haven't said it probably as bluntly as I just said it, but so we are closing up Democrat programs that we think, that we disagree with, and they're never going to open again. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Boom. And that is why watch Trump speak.
As China deepens its presence in Latin America, what role do you see for the U.S.
I just like to watch your talk.
Sorry, no? Okay.
Good job.
Okay, thank you.
Good job. Thank you, darling.
Everybody. Well, that was long. 3 hours almost live. First Powell. Boring, almost falling to sleep, but still, we got some headlines there. QT, quantitative tightening, ending soon. So that's bullish, FY. And Trump right now speaking, Milei, they're going to be talking about things. So I'm tired, but they're going to continue, right? They're going to have lunch or so, and they're going to continue having a conversation right now. And yes, prices of crypto and everything, so far so good. Holding the line, we buying the dip, so FYI. I want to say, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for being here in a long live. We're not crashing. We're not mega pumping, but we are listening, learning, and all together we're going through this, right? And people ask me, why are you live? You have any clue how many subjects and topics we listen to right now? China, Russia, Israel, Hamas, oil, Argentina, Venezuela, shutdown. I can go on and on and on, bro. This guy doesn't stop. So many things, bro, that for me and for some of us, we like to enjoy and watch. So somebody was asking about oil, and he said, yeah, we're pumping, right? So I was like, he said the word pumping, right? Spain too, yeah. I mean, tomahawks, because Ukraine is like, give us tomahawks. And he's like, wait a second. No, guys, honestly, there's so much, right, that he doesn't shy away. That is why I like the guy and many other reasons. And in a few more hours, there's gonna be the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Charlie. Honoring Charlie Kirk. His wife, of course, is gonna be there, I'm sure. So, but I won't be live for that. I'm tired already. I'm leaving. But the point is that to everybody here still listening to me, we do that because we care about the facts, about the info, about the latest, and it's just fun. It's exciting. I mean, we're not 18 anymore, right? I know some of you 18. Anybody 18 here? Kudos to you. You have so much life ahead of you, and I'm very happy that you're here. You're obviously 10 years plus ahead of me. Go ahead and crush it. You'll be fine. But it comes to a point that we just want to know what's going on in the world, and it's pretty crazy. And of course, we appreciate you guys for being here. As always, my community is the best. Hope you enjoyed the show, guys. Links down below. Join me, of course, for BTCC. Start trading and start, buying the dip and longing, right? 3,000 extra P for sure. Medal for that guy. So he created suspense. Yep, indeed. Thank you, Brandon, TJ, Chipper, Ghost, Godstrud, JB, and everybody, all my admins who are with me from the very beginning right now. Just you guys are crazy. Just comes to show that the dedication that we have for you guys, for our community, is big. So we might not be pumping right now. We're I think XRP is always pump ready. That's why I put it. And I'm buying the dip still. I bought it earlier today. A few things I told you guys. So Discord too in the description. To all my patrons, I'll reply. Takes me a little bit, but I'll reply. So you have any questions, right? Okay, let's take a break, eat, relax, get a burger with cheese. Let's close this poll right now with 4,000 plus votes. Today, Crypto will enjoy a nothing burger with cheese. You guys take care. Be safe. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time. Peace. Oh, yeah. What a funny day. What a funny day. Later, guys. Thank you.